Welcome to my YouTube channel. Myself Nahalakshmi, Assistant Professor of EC Department, Sri Shambha College of Engineering and Technology. Today we are going to discuss about the interfacing in embedded system. So what are the interfacing components present in this embedded system and the types of cables and different types of buses that can be connected to the embedded system. So in this topic today we are discussed different types of buses and different types of connectors. So the name is interfacing in embedded system to communicate through the cables. So the cable is depends upon the uh, applications and port identifications and using some different types of buses. The first part is the introduction of interfacing of embedded system. So buses that enables the communication between the components in embedded system. So different types of cables that appears to communicate our data or our signals or any source that can be transmitted, but the transmission is depends upon the cables. So which type of cable is suitable for communicate the signal or the data or our input source? So that is very important for the system. So the data can be transferred through this communication cables. The data that can be defined as the data signals or address and control signals. And here I just shown some different interfacing cables that can be suitable for computer. Then what is a bus? So bus is a communication pathway. So the bus to connect the input information to the sender part. So this can be connected CPU, memory and peripheral devices. So the CPU part, it can be connected to three buses, that is the data bus, address bus and control bus. The same way the memory bus or memory that can be classified into two types, that is volatile and non-volatile memories. So these also connected these three buses. So the every three buses cumulated and it can be defined as system bus. So the system bus will be connected to the CPU, memory, input and output devices through these three different types of buses. In this next slide, we detailedly discussed the different types of buses. First of all, the data bus. So carrier, it carries the actual data. So data bus, it send or receive the data through this data bus. So the with this determine the data transfer speed. The everything, the speed calculation and the uh, bus signals, it can be depends upon the speed of data communication and the suitable cable selection. The next is the address bus. So address bus that carries memory or device address. It stores some specified data or information and it enables the signals to transmit through the address buses. So determine addressable memory size. And generally these three types of buses can be unidirectional or bidirectional to communicate from the transmitter part and the receiver part. The address bus send memory address along the bus. So this can be easily to communicate from the sender and receiver part. Then we discuss about the control bus. So this control bus carries the control signal. So when the data can be transmitted, when it is can be delayed and when it is can be interrupted. So the everything is under the control bus. So the control bus carries the commands from the CPU and the status messages. It can be control the read and write operation and interrupt signals and clock signals. So the clock signal is depends upon on and off purpose that can be transmitted, when the data can be transmitted, when it is can be stopped. So everything under the control bus. Then we discuss about the serial versus parallel buses. So very simple explanation of serial bus. Serial is the one bit at the time, and but the parallel bus is multiple bits simultaneously can be transmitted through the transmission medium. Then we move to the I squared C buses, that is integrated circuits. There is two wire buses here. One is the serial data and another one is the serial clock. So used for short distance communication. Here I just show how the data can be transmitted, and by the use of two wire buses, serial data and serial clock. So it has one master and one slave to communicate through the I squared C buses, that is inter-integrated circuit. Then we move to the next bus, that is SPI, serial peripheral interface. So generally serial peripheral interface that can be classified into different types, and the components present in this master device, slave device and serial peripheral buses. So the bus can be classified into four types. I just shown in the image, and data transfer protocol, data rate, clock polarity and the clock phase. So these are all the components present in this serial peripheral interface for utilized for high speed serial bus communication, and it uses multiple serial and multiple clock signals for transmitting and receiving the data. Then UART bus, that is universal asynchronous receiver transmitter, that is asynchronous serial communication, and for transmission and receiving lines. Here I just shown some images to clearly understand the concept of UART bus transmission. And CAN bus. So CAN bus is known as the controller area network. So mostly it is used for the automotive system, high reliability and fault tolerance. Then USB bus, that is universal serial bus. Here there are different types of USB buses, type A, type B and type B mini and type B micro. So here USB has two different polarity ratios, that is 2.0 and 3.0. So universal serial bus can be plug and play communication to connect our system and the application port. Comparison of buses. So in this video we have discussed different types of buses. The buses can be based upon the speed and distance and the complexity. So everything is depends upon our selection of the application and selection of our system to communicate by using the buses to connect the transmitter and receiver part. And overall the conclusion of today's presentation, so interfacing buses are vital role for embedded communication to easily communicate. Thank you for watching this video.